Hey guys, welcome to my first ever NFL mock draft featuring my first ever guest on the show, Dr. Dayton Hansen, lifetime Vikings fan, also a quarterback at Wartburg College. He is going to, Dayton, what are you going to do on this? What are you going to do today?
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me on the show. Kind of what we're going to do today is we're going to do pre-free agency, first round mock draft here. Titus is going to have all even picks, and then I'm going to have he's going to have all odd picks, and I'm going to have even picks. We're just going to kind of go through line by line, probably do like 30 seconds to a minute just to explain our decision, prospect, give you guys a little bit of info on that. We're not going to do trades, just to keep it simple.
Yep, no trades. First in the NFL draft is the Tennessee Titans. I am going to pick Cam Ward from Miami. What the needs the Titans need for their team is a QB, tackle, and so many other things. But they are looking for their franchise quarterback. This season, their quarterback did not do well at the end. And with that, I'm going to pick Cam Ward for the first round pick.
So then that takes us to Cleveland at 2. I kind of went back and forth on this one between a couple of guys. I was tempted to do quarterback here with Shador, but I honestly think if I was Cleveland, I just think since they need so much, I'm taking Abdul Carter, Penn State edge rusher. I think he's personally the best player in the draft, just talent-wise. Showed a lot in the college football playoff. I think he was hurt too, so it's just incredible what that guy's able to do. Heard kind of a crazy stat for some of you guys who know Travis Hunter. Heard one of the analysts say recently that they think Abdul Carter could actually run a faster 40-yard dash than Travis Hunter, which is crazy for a guy his size. Gives Cleveland a great player, especially if they're interested in trading Myles Garrett. You get a great edge rusher to kind of be a cornerstone of your defense. So, 2, Abdul Carter.
Next is the New York Giants. The New York Giants need a quarterback. And with that, I'm going to pick Shador Sanders from Colorado.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happen. Takes us to number 4, New England. I think this is too good to pass on a guy like Travis Hunter. They have him listed as a cornerback. He's a do-it-all guy with Colorado. I think he's the type of guy who could be a Pro Bowler at corner or receiver. I think New England gets a guy that, pair him opposite Christian Gonzalez. They're pretty well set in the secondary. Also get Drake May, another weapon on offense if you can kind of get him in there for just some packages. Use him as a playmaker at wide receiver as well. Just too good of a talent to pass up on here at 4, and New England gets Hunter.
Next is Jacksonville Jaguars. What they need is a corner, guard, defensive line, cornerback, and with that, I'm going to have to go with Mason Graham from Michigan. He's ranked 4, but he shows at 6.3 passing rush snaps, 338. He has 5 sacks, 9 hits.
That brings us 6 to the Raiders. It's not going to happen, but I was tempted to pick Genty here. I don't think that a running back is going to go that high, but I think you could argue he might be one of the best prospects in the whole draft, possibly like a top 3, top 5 type kid. I think with Vegas right now, it is interesting to see what they'll do at quarterback if Cam Ward and Shador off the board. They're not going to take tight end because Tyler Warren's a potential pick here, but I think the kid from Arizona, Teteroa McMillan, good receiver, got a lot of good size. I think you got to give whoever that quarterback is, whether it's a Sam Darnold type guy, Aaron Rodgers, whoever they decide to bring in for that offense, give them as many weapons as possible. And you take McMillan from Arizona at 6.
Next is the New York Jets. Their needs is quarterback because Aaron Rodgers is possibly, most likely, very much going to leave them. And with that, I'm going to pick Dylan Gabriel from Oregon as their new franchise QB.
We're on to Carolina at 8. It's interesting. I feel like they got just about any position. I do think it's encouraging. Bryce Young played a heck of a lot better towards the everything he's went through. So I think you feel pretty good about him as your quarterback. With so many needs, there's a guy that a lot of people know his name. I'm not sure if he'll go this high. I love Tyler Warren from Penn State. I would have him as one of my top guys in the entire draft. Again, you're not going to take a tight end, top 2, top 3 for sure, but I'm taking Tyler Warren. I think that guy just giving Bryce Young a safety valve across the middle. They used him a lot in Penn State in different ways. I know some people have been up and down on his run blocking. I think if he gets some consistency there, I mean, he's shown the ability to be a mauler, in my opinion, in the run game too. So, if he can kind of develop some of that consistency, I mean, I think he's going to be one of the best tight ends in the league already next year if they use him properly. So I'm going Tyler Warren at 8 to Carolina. Give Bryce Young a good weapon.
Next, we have the New Orleans Saints. And the needs for the Saints is a wide receiver, a tight end, and defensive line. And with no trades and anything, with a need for a wide receiver, I'm going to pick Luther Burden III for their new wide receiver.
Moving on to Chicago at 10. If there's a Bears fan watching right here, there's probably two things that you're thinking. One, wouldn't it be cool to have Ashton Genty? And then two, wouldn't it be awesome? We need to get an offensive line, though, to protect Caleb Williams. I mean, they're a train wreck. I still think Caleb Williams could have a really long career with Chicago, but if you don't take an offensive lineman here at 10, you got to fortify those trenches and keep him upright. He's a franchise type guy. Ben Johnson just came from Detroit. The way they were able to kind of own the trenches, specifically on the offensive line this past year with Penei Sewell. I know they drafted him pretty high when he was with Detroit. I mean, you can't overlook offensive line help right here. I think you could go a few options. There's some good guys up here at the top, but I think the best one, at least right now, that I see is Will Campbell from LSU. I think you're pretty happy that he fell to you at 10. I've seen some mocks that have him as high as 4 to New England, depending on how those top picks shake out. I think you take Campbell here, give Caleb Williams a good blindside guy for a left tackle, and moving on to San Francisco.
Next is the San Francisco 49ers, with rumors going around that they're going to get rid of their wide receiver with that possibly coming to play and maybe coming true. Maybe it will come out later today or sometime this week. But with that being a risk, we need someone for Brock Purdy to throw to where they can get some points on the score. And with that, I'm going to pick Matthew Golden from Texas. Just looking at how he played this season, how great Texas was, and making that far. And I'm going to pick him.
I think I might do it here. Dallas needs some positive news, some things for their fans. And I know Jerry Jones is all about that. That seems to be the thing he cares about the most is fan engagement. Let's make some splash moves. Let's do some things to get them excited. They've had a pretty ho-hum offseason. Honestly, I think a lot of people were underwhelmed at the coaching hire. Running game was not very good last year. Did not have a whole lot of dynamic play from there. You get Dak back. You got guys like CeeDee Lamb. I think giving a guy like Ashton Genty, getting him to Dallas would be phenomenal for them. I'm not sure if the guy will go this high who's a running back, but Dallas seems like a Dallas pick to me. They're going to take the guy that everyone's talking about and intrigued by. So
you're going with Genty?
I'm going Genty 12 to Dallas. Need a running back, and I think they go for him.
Next is the Miami Dolphins. With Miami Dolphins, I'm going to pick someone for their defense, and for that, I'm going to pick safety Malachi Starks from Georgia.
Takes us on to 14 for Indy. If he's still there, Indy would be foolish to pass up on a guy like Tyler Warren, but just based on this mock, had him going 8. I think for Indy, a guy that I don't know. I think he's too good to pass up on. He's not my personal number 1 corner, but just going off of what I think will happen. A guy like Will Johnson from Michigan, I think he'd be a pretty good fit for Indy. Just getting a good secondary player, beefing up that defense a little bit more. Again, if Tyler Warren's available here at 14, slam dunk, you turn that card in and take him to help a guy like Richardson out, but I have him going 8, so we'll go with Johnson from Michigan. Just think he's a good player.
Next is the Falcons. The Atlanta Falcons losing Kirk Cousins, most likely going to go to Cleveland. They have a quarterback, but what the Falcons need are a wide receiver and a cornerback. And with a lot of wide receivers being taken already in this draft, I'm going to pick for a quarterback.
Yeah,
Jahdae Barron from Texas. Because most likely there's going to be a lot of wide receivers taken at beginning, and there's not going to be much. I'm going to pick a cornerback.
I do before I take Arizona. Vikings fans watching this, if I had a pick at 24 that I want Minnesota to take, it's Barron. I think he's phenomenal. He was before I had the Will Johnson pick, I said Will Johnson's not my number one corner. Barron from Texas is. I just think that guy's a can't miss prospect. If he slipped to 24 with Minnesota fans, you better be pretty ecstatic. He's a phenomenal football player. And then 16 on the clock here with Arizona. To me, it seems like they need O-line help, just trenches in general. I think, looking at who's available, I think you go right here. A guy that I don't know if he'll slide this far, but Kelvin Banks Jr. From Texas, good football player. I've seen people have him maybe going even 10 to Chicago, depending on how things kind of line up. I think you're getting really good value at 16 for a guy like Banks to help protect Murray, and a lot of needs on that offensive line in my opinion. Guard play, tackle play can be improved, and they got Paris Johnson, I believe, a few years back, who's a good player, but just to get a guy to fortify that offensive line, I think would be big for Arizona. So Banks to 16 to Arizona is my pick.
The Bengals. They need a right receiver, a guard, and defensive line. With that, I'm going to pick Tyler Booker, the guard from Alabama. They need to buff up their line a little bit, and yeah. With that, with the 17th pick in the draft, I'm going to pick Tyler Booker from Alabama, go to the Bengals.
That takes us to Seattle. Kind of go back and forth on this one. I know some people have speculated Jackson Dart, the quarterback, perhaps fall into Seattle at 18. And would they take him? They kind of are in limbo with what do they do with Geno Smith? Is he a guy they really like going forward, or are they looking to upgrade? It's tough. I just personally don't think Dart is worthy of an 18 pick right now. I could be totally wrong, and this kind of blows up in my face, but I just think they've got too many needs elsewhere than to take a guy that I think it's maybe like a second round type guy. Could have a long career, but I think it'd be reaching a little bit to get a guy like Dart here at 18. A guy that I'm going to take, I just think you can never have too many pass rushers. We saw what Philly did in the Super Bowl. Get guys that just get after the quarterback. Guy I really like, small school guy, Mike Green, edge from Marshall. You could argue he's, outside of Abdul Carter, the best pass rusher in this entire draft. Really gets after the quarterback well. I know Mike McDonald, defensive guy over in Seattle. I think he'd be ecstatic if he fell to 18, and they get Mike Green from Marshall. And
all right, with Tampa Bay, with the 19th pick, they need an edge rusher and a defensive back. But with that, I'm going to pick an edge rusher, James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee, to go to Tampa.
There's kind of a couple guys I have in mind right here for pick 20 with Denver. I mean, you certainly love what you got from Bo Nix, his rookie season. Feels like him and Sean Payton was a match made in heaven. A lot of Drew Brees-like with maybe even a little bit more mobility. Led him to the playoffs. I still think you can improve, just giving him as many weapons as possible. There's a couple guys I debated, but a guy that I really, really like, and I'm not sure if he's going to go, super high. He might even fall later than pick 20, but is Emeka Egbuka from Ohio State. Love his route running, good hands. Those Ohio State, that program too, and them and LSU are on a different level, it seems. Alabama, you could throw them in there as well. Just producing pro-ready guys. I mean, we've seen the Marvin Harrison Jr.'s, Garrett Wilson. There's so many to name. Chris Olave. Jackson Smith and Jigba, that's a factory out there, and I feel like you get a guy that's ready to go day one, and kind of a sleeper in my opinion also for an offensive rookie of the year type season is Emeka Egbuka going to Denver at 20.
Next we have the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Steelers, they need a quarterback, but I don't see very much Russell Wilson staying with them anymore. I can see them using a free agency and getting a new quarterback, maybe like Rodgers, Cousins, Sam Darnold, but they also need a wide receiver. And with that, I'm going to pick overall grade 89.7 Trey Harris from Ole Miss.
That brings us to the Chargers at 22. This pick makes a lot of sense to me. I'm going tight end Colston Loveland from Michigan. I think this kid's a stud too. Like you heard me say, I think Warren's a top 5 type talent in this whole draft. I think Loveland is for sure a first round type tight end. Obviously, the Michigan connection with Harbaugh out there. They also need a tight end. Give Herbert as many weapons as possible. That's the thing. They had McConkey was great for them his rookie season, but I wasn't too impressed with just their skill set of wide receivers and tight ends that they threw out there for Herbert. You got to give him as many weapons as possible. He's an elite type thrower of the football. Loveland, Michigan, 22 to the Chargers makes a whole lot of sense to me. And then with that, we'll move on to Green Bay.
With that, we have Green Bay, or I like to call them the green incarnations of Satan, even though we destroyed them this year. Green Bay, they don't draft like normal people do. They don't draft for players. They draft for positions. One year they'll draft a bunch of safeties. One year they'll draft a bunch of linemen. But Green Bay needs a wide receiver, a center, and a cornerback. Going against Dayton's judgment, I'm going to pick the 90.3 overall grade, Jaden Higgins from Iowa State, to go to Green Bay. Next, we have the loved Minnesota Vikings.
Happy I get this pick. When I chose Evans, that was one of the first thing I thought about. I want Minnesota's pick here. I do think logistically, I could see a trade back. Minnesota's got 4 picks is all, first, third, and a couple fifths. I could definitely see possibly a trade back. But I also think, don't overthink it. If there's a good football player there at 24, don't get cute. That's my plore to Kwesi. Sometimes in the past, he's tried to, do these, smooth little transition or smooth trades, and don't overthink it. Take a good guy right here. There's a lot of options I could go. Some of it's thinking through, like running back, for example. I love the running back class. I think you could find a really good guy in the 3rd round, personally, who could be a day 1 impact type player for Minnesota. I do think there's a guy here that just totally changes their defense as far as the defensive line and would free up guys like Van Ginkel, Grenard. Hopefully Dallas Turner takes a step this year. And that's Kenneth Grant, defensive tackle from Michigan. I mean, this kid he's an athletic freak. He's 300 and last time I saw was like 340 pounds type of player that just takes on tons of takes on blockers, frees up other guys, does a lot of the dirty work, but he can move a little bit too and ran a good 40. I believe he said he was trying to run like a 4.8. I don't even know if he ran at the combine, but this kid's a special player. And if you're Minnesota getting Grant at 24, I think you're pretty ecstatic, and kind of move on to 25 with Houston.
I don't get what you're doing. Why you wouldn't take Caleb Johnson?
I think it's a little too high for Caleb Johnson as much as I like him.
Next, we have the Houston Texans with the 25th pick. What the Texans need is a wide receiver, a center, a guard, and defensive line. Looking at a defensive line, I'm looking at Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. He has an overall grade of 88.9. He had 6 sacks in 2024, 7 in 2023, and 1 in 22. And then pass rush snaps, he had 362. With that, I'm going to pick Walter Nolan, defensive line from Ole Miss. Next, we have the Los Angeles Rams.
I think here with the Rams, it is interesting. Kind of keep an eye on the Cooper Kupp situation. If he does, in fact, get traded, you almost wonder if there's maybe a wide receiver they could take right here. I think what I'm going to pick here, this guy's a really good football player. Came in as an edge rusher, I believe, to Alabama, but now is kind of an off-ball linebacker, really good athlete, makes a lot of plays. I'm going to go Jahad Campbell, linebacker from Alabama for the Rams. Getting a really good player here at 26 late in the 1st round. So I'm going Campbell from Bama.
Next, we have the Baltimore Ravens. They need a wide receiver, tackle, and a cornerback. Looking for tackles for Baltimore. We have Josh Simmons from Ohio State. He had 74.4 overall grade. We have Armand Membo with a 90.4 overall grade from Missouri, and we have Great Zabel with a 90.4. And just looking at all that, I'm going to go with Gray Zabel to Baltimore. Next, we have the stupid Lions.
Yeah, Detroit here, it's interesting to see what they would do. I think a guy like Zabel actually could make some sense for them. I think they're going to lose most likely Kevin Zeitler to free agency, their guard, who had a really good season for them. You're kind of looking at where they sit right here. I don't think they need a lot for tackle play. I think what you're kind of thinking through is, hey, how did Philly just win a Super Bowl? A lot of trenches, edge rush, get after the quarterback. If you can get after the quarterback with just 4 people too, that makes a total difference. I think this kid is just too talented to pass up on. I'm gonna pick Jalen Walker from Georgia here at 28, to Detroit. I don't know if that kid will fall down that far. I know some people have him pretty highly rated, but just based on this mock here, he's slid a little bit, just based on our picks. But Jalen Walker from Georgia is a really good football player. So we'll move to Washington at 29.
Dayton said we have Commanders. There were rumors going around that Jaden Daniels wanted to leave the Commanders. I don't know why he would want to leave. He almost went to the Super Bowl. But the Commanders need a wide receiver. With just a few left in it, we have Jalen Noel from Iowa State, Isaiah Bond from Texas, and Kobe Hudson from UCF. He has 74.3%. Isaiah had a 68.9%, and Jaden Noel had an 80.5%. With that, needing a wide receiver, I'm going to go with Iowa State again with Jalen Noel. Next, we have the Buffalo Bills.
This is a place that I think a guy like Jahad Campbell from Alabama could go and would be a pretty good fit. I think they could use some D-tackle help. I know you could make the argument for giving Josh Allen some more weapons, and I think that totally makes sense. I think defensive line is just really good this year, defensive tackle specifically. I think the guy that I'm going to have them take defensive tackle from Ohio State, Talik Williams, here at pick 30. They didn't have a great defense last year, and a lot of reasons for that. Josh Allen had to play Superman for much of the season and really carry them as far as they did, but they're really going to need some more help just from the defensive side of the football. They've got good pieces, but as a unit, I don't think was up to par as far as beating the Kansas City, Baltimore, those types of teams late in the playoffs. So fortify that defensive line and take a guy like Williams, and you got to be pretty happy about that at pick 30 here.
Next, we have the Kansas City Chiefs. Dayton, how do you feel about the Chiefs? What do you think of Patrick Mahomes?
As a Vikings fan, this will be kind of eye-opening to some of you. I've told people I would rather have Green Bay win a Super Bowl than Kansas City at this point. Just strongly dislike them. Sure, you could say it's the winning aspect, but I certainly feel like the NFL has some favoritism towards Kansas City at times. Maybe that's a conspiracy theorist in me, but I'm just ready for this dynasty to be over with. I wanted Kelsey to retire. I want Andy Reid to retire. Just get it over with. Not much to say. This is a friendly channel, so don't want to get too emotional, but not a big fan of the Chiefs, to say the least.
Who said this was a friendly channel? How do you feel about Travis Kelce and the Taylor Swift controversy?
Kind of why I say that Kansas City is maybe favored by the NFL. The NFL is a business. Let's just remember that, people. We all love these mock drafts and teams and all that fun stuff, but the NFL is a business, number one. And I saw a stat the other day, I think since the whole Travis and Taylor thing became public, the NFL made $1 billion in extra revenue from just that. I don't know how exactly they study that and how they measure that, but you can't tell me that the NFL didn't want Kansas City to make it as far as possible. This is a money grab for them. They love it. They love every bit of it because it's increasing viewers. People are just watching TV to say, where's Taylor at? I'm married to a woman, obviously, and she does that too. We watched Chiefs games last year when I had no desire to because she wanted to see where Taylor's at. So that's my thoughts on the whole situation. Unfortunately.
What the heck? With that, back to the draft, we have the Kansas City Chiefs with the 31st pick in the first round. The Chiefs' need is a tackle, defensive line, and that's about it. But pick one. I'm going to go with the overall grade of 83.9, Derek Harmon from Oregon. Enjoy being hated. Next, we have the Super Bowl champs, the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, I think Harmon to the Chiefs. That'd be a good pick for them. He's a good football player. Like we said, defensive tackle in this year's draft is pretty loaded. First round and beyond, you're